Okay, you're live.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Haymarket Town Council Budget Work Session to order on Monday, March 31st, 2025. Can I have a roll call, please?
Casanello,
Present.
Larson,
Here.
Pater, Gallagher,
Here.
Ramirez,
Here.
Baker,
Here.
DNA.
Here.
All right, just a reminder to everybody, we do have a full work session at 7 as well. I know we have a lot to discuss here, but just kind of everybody be cautious of that. If we need to move on to items, we can add this to our agenda at 7. Let's get started. Roberto, I'll pass off to you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Council, today is the first work session, official work session of the proposed budget for FY 2026. And this budget, when we worked on it, the town manager and myself, we made sure that we were trying to align with the strategic planning. Some of the 5 key points definitely with financial accountability, essential services, the long-term planning, managing the revenue and expenditures, and obviously the economic stability. Those were our goals and working in this budget. And we'll just start getting into some of the revenues. As you guys can see in this budget, we are proposing to keeping the tax rate flat, meaning it would stay at the same at the 0.105, which would still show an increase on tax revenues. In looking at the report, it looks like majority of them will be due to the bigger increases will due to some of the commercial properties as well as some of the new townhomes that have now been fully assessed from last year. We are proposing this due to the fact that we have been lowering, reducing, giving tax refunds in the past 3 years. I feel like it's time for the town to kind of put a hold on that, especially considering the projects are coming down the line. In conversations with our financial advisors, I believe it's something that, though we could do it, it's not really a great idea to do so. But yeah, so that is one of the first major line items we're touching right now is the real estate assessments. The revenue would increase by 13.6%. In dollars, that would be about $64,317. I don't know if there's any questions on that specifically right now, or we just go through the line items, how you guys want to do this.
When we run to the major points and then go through it, I think that's what I would prefer, because then we can get it, because I think otherwise we'll get into, you'll probably never get through it otherwise.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, the next line item you see as well is the transient occupancy tax. Though we are starting to collect some relatively good data, I still don't have enough data to, well, I apologize. I do have the data to show that we are showing a bigger increase than prior years now that the hotel is at fully functioning all year. As you guys can see as the actuals, this number as of the February, it's already at 229. This number, we will bump it up to 300 simply for the fact that we are seeing a increase in trends when it comes to the hotels. One note is that if this is one of those revenues too, that we would keep an eye out monthly. If revenues do seem to not go as planned, we will adjust to it. As you recall, there's a 3.7 that goes back to the reimbursement to the hotel for travel and tourism. The other 2% goes into our general fund, and the remaining 2 goes to our own tourism that the town does. These are some things that we can control. So we will keep an eye on it, but I do feel confident with this number of saying 300,000 expecting for next year. The other line item is the bank stock tax. Now, this is due to the amounts of funds we have in our current bank, in our own one bank. Again, this is something too that we can keep an eye on, but it looks like in past trends last year from, as you can see, was more at the 70,000. So we're just gonna play it towards that, especially considering that we have had good interest return this year and looking forward to it next year. Going on to the next is the business license tax. These are coming in strong. We predict that we should probably be close at 350 this year, but with the amount of construction and businesses are leaving as well and coming, We're projecting that we'll stay at 350 next year. Cigarette tax, that is, though it is trending to go down. In prior years, we were expecting it to reduce, but we have seen a significant increase as well. It's something also we can keep an eye on. But as of right now, I'm promoting it to just stay at a flat rate of 140,000. The consumer tax, as of right now, I feel that we should keep it at the same. It hasn't really changed much. Last year, I know it was underperformed, but these numbers this year are tracking to be a little bit better. We could keep on as well. The meals tax, am projected to be 1.6 next year. This is due to the fact that the unknowns, though we do have a lot of new restaurants, I don't know how they'll perform. I don't have the data to show a trend versus the ones that we have in the past 5 years. So at 1.6 is something I feel confident that we'll hit. The following one, the sales tax receipt. These have been increasing. We're ahead of what we expect this year as well. So this is bumping up to 170 is what we feel confident that we will receive next year as well. Again, we can also keep on a lot of these revenues to make sure that we are hitting those marks. The other line items, we're keeping the same. When it comes down to the fines, though, we are increasing by 5,000. 5,000 is unsure because this is we're seeing a uptrend and increase in revenues due to the DMV program. Those programs have been great for the police department, but have also shown an increase in some of our fines that we're collecting as well. The interest bank accounts, though those numbers are really high, we obviously know with what's going on with the federal. I know that currently right now they haven't reduced the rates, but we are not sure how that's going to look. So we are keeping that at the flat rate as well, expecting the same. But obviously we do see that it is higher, but we just don't know predict how that will end up next year. When it comes down to rentals, I'm happy to say that all of our current leases have opted to renew. So we've made those adjustments for them. So we have another year. Just on this section, though, I do want to give you guys an update that we will have a big lease that we have 5 years that will be coming up for renewal next year. That'll be the property up in front, Washington Street Realty. So we'll be discussing that next as we get closer to next year. Not much has changed on the revenues on the charges for services. There is none on the town events. With having the events coordinator, full-time events coordinator, we've been able to be better at tracking the revenues and making sure that everyone's paying properly. I did up it to 14 because that's kind of what they expected, just with the new fees of the farmers market. Obviously, you do see that currently we have about $990 more. Those are tentatively drop-in fees. We don't know how much we will have at any given year. Some wait until the next July or August. So we are going to keep that at just the 14,000 because those are just the guarantees of the actual full-time and part-timers. Going down the line, no change as we see until we get to the 599. That's just to adjust to what is currently expected of the grant next year. I believe Chief made sure that this won't be affected. Currently does not look like it would be affected by any of the executive orders that the president has done when it comes to grants. Going down to the next page, just making some adjustments to the DMV for what is expected as a DMV grant process. If that does increase, that's something that we can adjust, amend for the budget. And going down to the final revenue line items, you can see that I removed reserve from using reserve funds on this budget. Solely, this budget is created by the actual expected revenues, organic expected revenues. We're not looking to dip into the reserves. That is kind of giving the opportunity to as well to see if council has any projects or any assets they want to see to balance the budget. The transfer of the ARPA, we will see towards the end how that is actually going to be starting to be tracked separately from the operational budget. On this section on the revenues, is there any specific questions that I can help address?
No, go ahead. Whoever has a question.
Couple of things that, if I may.
Go ahead.
All right, let's talk revenue. Let's talk money. All right. For me, I'm just going to put it out there right at the beginning. 13.6% increase is a non-starter for me when it comes to the real estate tax. If the council would allow, I would like to see a table of some kind so that we can see different tax rates, whether it would be a flat 0 or 3% or 6% increase. And if possible, what would be the impacts of that on the other budget, on the rest of the budget? Because you have to balance it out, right? So I would like to throw that out there and see if we could have something like that to talk about at the next meeting. When is the next meeting on this?
So next week will be the public hearing when it comes to the real estate tax, which is actually addressing what you want to see. And again, we've had this conversation, I think, with the liaisons, and I've mentioned it in prior meetings. I do have that. We will present that, but I feel very strongly that it is about time that the town watches out for the town. The past couple of years, we have constantly reduced our tax rates, which in my opinion has kind of put in a position that in the long term could hurt the residents. Because again, I know the argument is always about the county, but the county has not really assisted us in any way when it comes to the police department. In fact, they have kind of nickel and dimed any of the services that we do, as well as many asks that we do. We don't get assistance when it comes to the park. In fact, we're having to pay them to do a survey that we've come to find isn't going to fully do what we want to do, but that's another conversation. I think it's time for the town too to also just rely on itself. Unlike many other townships where they rely a lot on federal grants, we're lucky we're not in that position when we need to rely on what's going on statewide overall. Other jurisdictions do rely a lot on federal grants and funding. We do not, but yet we don't want to hurt ourselves by keeping reducing the rates. And to your point, Councilman Pasanello, I know we'll talk about this next Monday too. A lot of these increases do come more on the newer properties, newer parcels. When it comes to the actual homes that have been here for years, I think it's on the average overall, taking time is about $78 more a year. Some homes are actually a lot less than that, about $30 a year more. Some are 60, some are 68. Just depends on what neighborhood you're living in and what property you have. Obviously, the newer homes are definitely seeing more impact. That is due to actually getting a full-on assessment versus when they came in. But yes, I will have that on Monday's meeting. We will have those comparables and kind of give everyone an idea what it will look like and how it would affect the current budget proposed.
That's great. I appreciate that. Because I'm not sure, but Monday's a bad day for me, so I may not be able to make that discussion. So if we could get that in advance and I can send out comments on that, I'd appreciate that.
Yes, we'll do.
I don't necessarily agree that tax refunds, I'm not sure what I heard there. I'm having some issues with my hearing these days. Did you say tax refunds 3 years ago or the past 3 years?
I said in the past 2 years, we've done reductions on tax rates
reductions.
and
Okay,
tax
fine.
refund. Yes.
Well, we did one tax refund.
And a tax refund. Yes.
One.
One.
Okay. All right, so, and that was during COVID.
No, that was 22.
Yes.
So it's after.
Okay, you want to say it's after? Whatever. So it would be very helpful to see that, but I just want people to understand that if we do this 13.6% increase, and please check my math, and I know Alexander's good at it, others, but we're talking about a 44% increase since 2020 on revenue for real estate. So, you know, it's not like we're flat. It's not like we're doing nothing. And we're not making the proposal to eliminate the tax like some people promised when they did all of this development. So I just want to put that out there too. You have a question about the taxes? Because I have other questions going on.
Oh, yes, about the tax rate.
Good.
So looking at the small kind of briefed budget here that you shared on the back of the agenda, I really appreciated that kind of simple breakdown of it. I was wondering if you could corroborate with me the percentage of our real estate tax of the overall budget. My calculations for general property taxes of the adopted fiscal year of 2025 said of the $486,893 that we collected or estimated, that was about 11.8, just shy of 12% of our overall budget. When I hopped over to the proposed budget for fiscal year 2026, my calculations put the $564,039 out of the $4,541,686 as just slightly over 12%. So I was really curious because we had those wonderful VACO VML gentlemen come and present to us about the financial benchmark. Was that what it was called? Benchmark of our town's financial status. And at that time, I feel like they had mentioned our real estate tax was about 9% of our overall income. So, and they said that that was really risky to have such a small amount of our revenue be from a insured source. I'm not using the best words, but you get what I'm saying. So to me, looking at our overall budget and looking at the tax rate that you have proposed, it looks like we're staying consistent in terms of what our residents are contributing to our financial stability in the town. Would you agree? Are my numbers correct?
Yes. I mean, you're correct on some of them. Our town for a long time has heavily relied on other taxes, which we all know are meals and sales tax, and now the TOT tax.
Mm-hmm.
Other jurisdictions, in fact, with my friend in the county this week, we talked a bit, seeing what's going on in the county as well. I mean, he's able to do something I can't, which is he's able to offset proposed reductions on the real estate rate, but increasing other tax sources. Many other jurisdictions, they're able to do that. I unfortunately do not have those tools. In a way, that's why it makes it, for a town, cheaper to live, one of the cheaper towns to live in. Not saying county, obviously everyone has to pay the county, we get that. But overall, for townships, we are one of the lower tax real estate tax towns. So those are one of the, that's kind of when we have these discussions too, is that we have to be really careful with that because we don't have other sources of income, in the sense that if the economy were to take a turn for the worst, some of the ones that we heavily rely on are most likely the ones that will take a bigger hit before real estate. And that is meals tax, or TOT taxes. So yes, that I think just relying heavily on those taxes is you want to kind of play equal.
Mm-hmm.
Other townships, and working on this data, which I'll share on Monday's meeting. They rely heavily on their real estate when it comes to their income, anywhere from 10 to 24% of their general fund comes from real estate. Ours is at about 9.6 in this current budget. General revenues come from real estate. Other jurisdictions do have utility taxes. They have other, again, other accesses of way of getting revenue that we don't.
Mhm.
So it's just keeping in mind that. And we've done, I feel like the town has done its part the past couple years of doing the reductions, offsetting some of those costs by holding off on some projects. Obviously, now that we're starting to, execute those projects and hopefully work on the next big project, we definitely need to make sure we have a sustainable source of revenues when it comes to that.
Sure. Just a clarifying question really quickly. When you say offset cost, what is our tax rate offsetting costs of? When you said offsetting costs, could you clarify that, please?
So offset costs, meaning that for a county example, we have a police department.
Mhm.
Our budget is a little bit over $1 million. We all know that, we help offset that because there is, our guys are first to react to any emergency access over there. But then we also have to pay for services to work within the same data services that the Prince William County has. That is something that I agree with Councilman Passanello. It's something we really, it's hard to have a pill to swallow, but it's something that I'm hopefully, at the county level, they can work on, and not just us, but also the other small towns too. They fall in the same issues, where they're having on departments, though we're probably one of the only ones that have a full-time. I think many of the other ones are more part-time departments. And I know there's some others, but I just know that we definitely have a full-time 24-hour service community department.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Can I reclaim my time?
Well, I want to go around to see if anybody else first. Listen.
Okay.
I know Joe had more questions,
It's,
so
okay.
I do have just one thing regarding the real estate tax, right? Something important that you mentioned is the $60,000 is not just, some of the increases as a result of new homes coming online, right? That's what you indicated. Are you able to give us the numbers? Give us an idea of how much of the increase is attributed to new homes coming online versus existing homes? Can you give us that data?
Yeah, I can work on that for the report on Monday. I can have that for you guys.
I think that's going to be,
Yeah.
it's going to be important for us.
Great question.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Joe?
I'll wait till the end.
Wait till the end.
Joe,
Okay.
there you go.
Wait till the end.
Okay, so I heard a couple of things that may not be totally correct, and I don't think they said it was really risky. I think what I heard when they gave us the presentation back in July was that risk would have to be mitigated and have to be considered. It could be a risk, but that's something that has to be managed. That's what I heard. But we can ask them when they come to visit us on the next time, because they're going to be coming in about a month or so.
Yes. So they have with the second report, the second part of that overall report is going to be the forecasting. I think right now we have them scheduled for April 28th work session. They'll come in and present, and you'll definitely have the opportunity to have questions, answer them.
And I think philosophically, there's going to be differences on these tax rates and all this other stuff. Later on, we'll take a look at some other things that may convince folks that maybe we don't need to have a higher tax rate, but we'll wait till we get into the expense side and the bottom line. But a couple of other things that I think we need to have for this discussion going forward is the fee schedule, because I know you guys were supposedly updating that fee schedule for services that we provide with land use, the engineer, what have you, right? That would be helpful to see how that ties in. The CIP, because the CIP, of course, is going to be funded through what? ARPA? Proffers?
So currently the CIP items, as you guys, when we get to the expenditure, you'll see that this budget is funding some of the CIPs actually through the expected revenues. The ARPA is there to use for one-time costs. There's a few items that I would, if there is a need to reduce or whatever board wants to do, there's items that I would recommend using ARPA for one-time expenses. Yes, we do have other sources for funds to do so.
So, okay. So some of the things I was a little confused about was crosswalking to what pots of money is funding certain investments. So maybe we can talk about that later as you go through it on the expense side. But it would be very helpful, for me at least, to see the fee schedule and the CIP going forward. Okay. You want me to keep going? Does anybody else have any?
Floor is yours.
Okay. So we have funds in escrow, right? We were talking about this the other day, I think, and that we hold for different bonds. Right? And it's just a curiosity question on my part. The escrow funds are to be paid back if satisfied to folks that post the bond. Is that correct? Anybody jump in?
Yes.
Okay. And what about the interest on those bonds?
Those,
Do we get
those-
to keep that by
We
state
do.
law?
We do.
We do. Okay. All right. Just wanted to clarify that. So looking at this, Roberto and Emily and others, we have a line item for proffers here, but we don't show any numbers in there on the proffer side. Is it because we don't anticipate doing anything with the proffer money? Or we
So-
just haven't made that determination yet?
So twofold. One, the proffers are dedicated funds that we cannot take into account because they're not part of our budget. They're essentially pass-throughs to the school board, to the entities that are meant to be. There's some proffers that we are able to use, but again, that's going to be a council decision as to how
Mhm.
those funds will be used on what type of project. Will notice in the expenditures on the other income, which is where we're going to track separate proffer funds
At
as
the
well as,
At the end?
yes, as well as proffer funds as well as the ARPA, where we budgeted the full on Parks and Rec proffer to address the pavilion work, the next phase of it.
So.
The one currently
Can
is
I
being
ask
paid
you a
by
question
ARPA.
about that 5,000? Is that 5,002 development funds? Is that proffer? funds?
Yes.
Okay. So why do we have proffers on the front end here on the revenue side?
This was due because when I worked on the budget last year, we had already placed it here, but we intake it in the general budget, but now we created a separate budget with the auditors to make sure that it's being tracked separately now.
All right,
That's why.
'cause I was getting a little confused about that.
When it was initially set up in prior years, that's how they were entered. But then when we did our audit for 2023, we just thought they'd be better. And with the conversation of a resident, we went ahead and just wanted to keep it separate. So we created a different account to keep it separate.
So that we have to keep carrying it for the next few years?
We don't have to carry it unless we use it. So if we budget to the proffers, until we use it, if we budget to use it, yes, you'll see it there.
But I'm talking on the revenue side. Do we need to keep that proffers there?
The only reason you'll see it here is because we go back 5 years usually. So everything that happened 5 years will be there.
Understood. So you
yeah.
have to carry it.
So I'm carrying it because it did happen. Yes.
All right, that's what I thought. It's been a while. All right, so when we say development revenue on the last page, 5,002, that's proffer funds, which is development revenue proffers up here.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, thank you. So the permits and fees, I asked about that. So what's the basis for that increase in the fines and forfeitures? I'm not, where's that coming from? And how are we doing, by the way, with that?
So that's a tricky one. I don't know, Councilman Baker, you haven't been on board for a while. So when we've always had our current chief and our prior chief have always tried to find a way of how to be able to know what exactly is being paid when it finds forfeitures in clerk's office. That's information that we have not been able to obtain. But what we are going off the data with talking with chief, it seems to me that once we implemented the DMV grant, which we were suspended from using for 3 years or 2 years, I believe, we just got it back last year. And so far we've actually happy to announce the chief informed me that we passed the first audit for it this year, clean. So it has shown an influx on the increase on the revenue side, as our officers are now able to work that grant, hence have more stops cases that they go to court, and so it ends up having our part of the stops that they do, the work that they're doing.
Anybody have any questions on that?
On what? On fines forfeiture?
On the forfeiture funds?
Nope.
Okay. So with respect to rental properties, guys, everything seems to be moving along. Do we have any other underperforming assets that you can think of upstairs or anywhere else?
We need elevator.
Yeah, so
Hear that.
I get so one of those, currently we have 2 rooms upstairs that are not rented. We have shown them to a few people that are interested. 4. Well, the 2 ones I remember, the 2 bigger ones are most popular ones, but it always comes back to the ADA access. That's another key reason, not the only reason, but another thing that would, this town center project could address. We do have a current tenant that, if that was able to address, would be more than willing to sign a long-term leases to take the whole space upstairs. But so far, yeah, we do have some assets that we have not been able to rent, not for not trying, but it's just, the logistics didn't make sense for them.
Yeah, so that's another challenge that we have.
Mhm.
And that doesn't get handled through the site plan. That would be separate from the site plan?
It does get handled.
It would get handled through the site plan?
It makes all the arrangements for it.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, so we're going to hear next month, perhaps, what limitations we have on borrowing, so to speak, and whether we can get moving forward on the site plan for this year. Okay, all right. Do we have any contracts up for renewal this year? We're good? We're not going to have any surprises there, you don't think?
No, in fact, our trash service is honoring the 4% max for this year. So you'll see it'll go from $28 per home to $29.12 for the next year. Watching the county, they do plan, I think who's Chris Shorter, what's his name? Yes,
And
the
for,
county-
you're talking about expenses. Are you Joe, are you asking about our contracts under expenses, or are you asking about our leases?
On our leases as for revenue.
Like leases for revenue. that's
Revenue,
what-
I'm sorry. No, so all of them have to re-signed. There's 2 that are coming up, I believe, and that is no, there's only 1 actually. Washington Street Realty, my apologies. We just signed the new agreement with Revolution this week. That's been fully executed. The Washington Street Realty will be the big one that's coming up next year. Their lease will end on June 30th. So we'll be having those discussions by midpoint, seeing where they stand on that.
June 30, 26.
So June 30 next year.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good to know. All right, any other possibilities of additional revenue under town events? Because I didn't see any increases there. Am I mistaken? Let
So
me see.
No major increases under town events. The reasoning for this is since Julia's had her first year taking over the events, learning the community. This will be her first year of doing them all solo by herself. Of course, she has her team helping her, but these are hers to lead. And so we've set some goals to try to hit our marks for sponsorships. That's going to be one of our bigger goals this year. And then hopefully in following fiscal years, grow that. And we're currently happy with all of our event pricing right now. So we don't look to expand the event pricing. We'll have to talk about beer garden and wine garden sponsorships. But outside of that conversation, we don't expect increase in fees based on the farmers market and its success this year. Next fiscal year, we might revisit, or the beginning of the calendar year when the next season starts, we might revisit a small increase in farmers market. That'll just be based on the needs of the market as it has grown and the request for electricity, et cetera. So
Okay.
no other major event changes there, though.
Okay, good to know. All right, thank you. So I'm looking at revenue from the Commonwealth. And one of the things that has me concerned is the trajectory of that communications tax. I mean, do you think we're going to make the budget for 25 on that? I mean, if you look at the previous actuals in 24, we're about 5,000, 4,000 under. And it seems to have been dropping since 2020, so I only ask
Yeah,
that.
that is something, I'm gonna have to, I will take a look at that one. I'll be honest with you, I kind of oversaw, I didn't catch that one. Because it does look like, it will probably not meet the expected 80, but, I'll take a look at that one as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that number, what does that number represent through the third quarter? Do you know? Or is it a lagging and,
It's a lagging one, but I can double check for that too.
okay. All right. I think that's it, other than I'm wondering, I mean, Chief, I think you spoke for Chief and you said that it looks like the DMV grant will be okay for this year.
Yes, sir. Well, everything is looking positive on that. And when SEPO was here for the audit this last week, we discussed that. And he sees no issues, but of course makes no promises at the same time. Of course, we're already in our second year on the grant. First year and second year audit to this point was flawless. Everything was good. So providing that funding is there, we see no obstacles that would present themselves between now and probably the grant award month around August, I would say, to let us know that it's coming, that we'll be able to start on October 1 with the new grant.
And just to clarify for my edification, that's funded through what, NHTSA?
NHTSA.
The state?
Yeah, NHTSA via the state as the fiscal agent there.
I don't know where NHTSA is these days.
Yeah, me neither. But now he's seen nothing no obstacles coming our way or anybody's way, quite frankly.
And Lowly, how do you feel about Lowly?
I think we might see another little bump in that with what we just got, which was 3,200 that was awarded to us. So we'll probably see a little bit more in that. And again, we don't have a finalized number on the 599 funds, but we see no obstacles there either.
Right.
We've the town manager, the treasurer, and I have all put our feelers out to make sure that everything's good, that there's no executive orders that affect our budgetary revenue on those line items.
For now.
For now.
Yeah.
For now.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chief.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Roberto. Let me just wrap it up real quick.
Yep, wrap it up.
So I needed to do this tonight because like I said, I may not be here next week and I wanted to get it out there. So if you could put together the 0, 3, and 6 for me and share it with everybody, I'd appreciate that. So I see where the impacts are and better understand it. And the fee schedule and updated CIP, because, looking at what we're doing and the resources that we have, we may have to make some adjustments. I don't know, but that's a discussion we'll have to have as part of the budget.
And the CIP actually is in the packet. It's not on the bigger sheet. That's more for you guys to be able to see it, visualize it. But on the actual packet of the agenda packet, the CIP is in there.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay, I must have missed it. I didn't. Oh. And this is in tonight's packet?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, I have this one.
The printout is always meant, I don't want to strain your guys' eyes. I want to make sure everyone reads it clearly. So I always print out the bigger version. But for the packet, just so people can see it as well, it is all included in there as well.
I actually do not have it in my packet either.
You did not?
No.
You want to just make copies for everybody in case they don't have it? That's all right. I don't have it.
I have that somewhere, but I don't have the
No,
CIP.
with the CIP.
CIP, I don't have.
Council, just to be, did you guys get the packet that included the memo in the front
Yeah, I got the memo.
and,
Yes.
and the
Okay.
budgets?
I've got the agenda, the memo,
Yep.
and the summary.
in the whole budget, because the whole budget was included in the agenda.
And the whole budget. Yeah, the
So it's
big,
just like the snapshot
Oh,
condensed.
There were supposed to be two. There was supposed to be a agenda packet and then the bigger version for you guys to be able to actually write on, make notes on. So I apologize if that didn't get to you guys. Now it makes sense why Councilman Passanel was asking about that, because the packet meant to include everything in there.
Doesn't take much to confuse me. That's all I have for now
Yep.
on the revenue
I have
side.
a couple things.
so let's go down, we'll start here.
Okay. Roberto, if you don't mind, if we had any for 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, surplus, can you give us those numbers for each of those fiscal years, please? Not now, now, for our next meeting.
It's
It's
part of,
here.
it's in your bigger portion. If you go to the bottom, you will see the net ordinary income. That is your surplus for each fiscal year.
What line item?
It is page 7. If you looked at that yellow highlighted section on page 7, on the bottom,
Okay. Net ordinary income, okay.
so that will be your surplus, what you would call a surplus.
I was going to talk about that later.
Okay.
But
The only
Glad you
other
brought it
thing
up.
is consumer utility tax. What does that cover? What are those taxes related to?
Those are related to the electrical and that are distributed by the state.
They're what?
They're distributed by the state, collected and distributed by the state to the jurisdictions.
Collected by the state from the residents or,
You're looking for the communications?
no, utility, consumer utility tax.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Yeah, that is collected by the state, which is the Virginia Dominion Power. They
Yes.
pay to it.
it's on your bill.
Let me put
It's
that.
on our bill. So it's basically
Just
what
like
we pay,
Columbia-
the residents within the town pay, right?
Correct.
And it's also Columbia Gas.
Columbia
It's on your
Gas,
bill.
Dominion, and Novec.
Okay, just curious, actually, I'm a little bit puzzled why it's been trending down. Considering that we have more homes, right? In the town, so why is it trending down?
It's a good question I've asked in the past, and I'll follow up with that question as well, because I haven't been able to get a clear answer as well. And in fact, too, interesting enough too, because you also see that, on our public service, with the new conductors being installed, they're also increasing on the assessments on that. So that's something I would ask, and get back to you on that.
Okay. The only thing is, I don't know, I think I had asked for this before, but can we, the proposed changes, both for income and expense?
So I did that again, I think that's part of the packet that you guys did not
Package,
receive.
okay.
Yeah, and I do apologize for that, but actually they do that. They actually simplified it a lot easier. It was more of a summary for each department. It shows you the changes are going on. It shows you what was adopted, what is amended currently. So it kind of actually shows you all the changes that have gone to this current budget to the proposed budget.
Okay, all right, I'll take a closer look.
Yes.
Thanks.
Anything else? Councilman Baker?
All right. Roberto,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you for putting everything together, and it's a lot, but I just want to say with everything, I'm glad we're having this dialogue and we can come and talk about this. But with everything with the taxes, I'm kind of in base with you with the flat tax rate. I'll keep it short, just growth without creating dissatisfaction among the taxpayers is because we've decreased and we've given back. And there's a lot of stuff going on in our town with real estate, new restaurants coming in, and a lot of things can be uncertain, but if we lower the taxes, I think if we keep it at a flat tax rate like Roberto has it, I think it has the best opportunity for us to be going forward with these projects that we plan for our strategic planning. So thank you, and we'll talk about it more later.
Does anybody else have anything? Just my quick comments. I'm going to echo one of the things I was going to ask for as well was just, I think just in the interest of making sure that we're fully informed. Number one, I know we didn't get the full agenda packet. So whatever was supposed to be in there can obviously be included so that we can, especially kind of see what those major changes are, especially if we're about to talk about expenses, what some of the different department changes are. Maybe we can highlight that in the next section. But the comparables, that if we did lower, if we, kind of what, my thing I'm most interested in is then what would that impact be? I think as Councilman Passanello asked about. So if you could provide that for us for review ahead of time, that would be fantastic. Other than that, I'll no further comments from me other than repeating stuff that's already been mentioned. I don't want to do that.
Okay.
We want to move on to expenses?
Yes. No,
We have 15 minutes. We have 15 minutes.
So try to go there. Okay. First, the first section on the expenses, as you guys can see, will be the council section. So this current budget, funny thing happened. A lot of council members really wanted to get involved. We have new council members as well. So what we amended, which is amazing funds, moving funds around within that budget to accommodate convention educations, we kept it. We did increase a little bit more for the mileage allowance as some of these events are close by where we have council members that do wish to drive themselves. So we accommodated that, but no significant changes on that section. The town administration, a few key changes on the wages. You did see an increase. It does propose a 2.5% COLA, plus the possibility of a 3% merit. Again, the merit, the 3% isn't a guarantee. That's just built into the budget, but obviously depending on evaluations, that it determines what percentage an employee would get. But in this section, we are proposing for 2 positions currently to be market adjusted due to the work they're doing and the responsibilities they're having. That will be the maintenance coordinator personnel and the events coordinator. Both of these positions have tackled on more than what the original intent was, but have shown on the town side a great success on it, with the success of the streetscape alone, and many of the town events coordinator has shown that expenses on the maintenance side has been able to be reduced as he's now being able to fix and maintain stuff versus just waiting till it's broken and address it then. That's what the town has done in the past without a position there. Obviously, the events personnel, as you guys can see, the success of the market, not only the market, but all the other events we have thrown. It is being a person now when our TM went on maternity leave. I feel like no one could feel that we love you, Misty. No one felt that loss during the events. Everything went smooth. Everything was hitting all cylinders. Also, we're looking for her to also address more of the marketing and social media aspect. So that's something, and the web thing, she'll probably be more heading on that as well. Some of the changes there are also, we saw an increase on health insurance, but on the budget, it does show a decrease, and that is due to 2 current admin positions not taking the insurance. The town offered insurance, they waived it. But yet it's also addressing the increase of 12% on insurance. So that's why you see a decrease there, but not much. Then you'll also see the overall general liability insurance did go up. This is just part of the renewal process. The other line item you'll see is we did, with the moving away from Granicus, we are saving ourselves about $9,000 in subscription fees a month. So that was reduced there. Overall, the town administrative positions show about a 3.9% increase from last year's budget. The next line item is the legal. Again, this is something that I feel that we are going to have to have with them, deal with a lot more, not probably town, more of the outside stuff going on. We're going to get them more involved as well too, with the 1 mile reviews and stuff. But we're keeping that at flat. The auditing services, this is also just the increase. Every year there's an increase. Obviously, we have Robinson Cox for the next 5 years. So there's that. The next department, the police department, obviously the increase on the wages is, again, for the proposed 2.5% COLA, 3% merit, determined by evaluation. That also would, with these, at least a 2.5% COLA increase also would adjust some of the holiday pay, so we made that adjustment there. We also increased the DMV. That is there too, just to align with what we expect of revenue, same thing expenditures. The health insurance as well. Again, though you see a decrease, there was a increase. This is due to a personnel when we had budgeted this current budget was for the two positions. We're going to have 2 full family plans. That is not the case. One of the officers does not need a full family plan. So make that adjustment there. Some of the annual due subscriptions. And before I get further, the departmental budget for the police department was given and reviewed by the chief. So if there are specific questions on this section of the budget, I'll have him address it, as this is something we've always done where he works on his budget and, gives it over to us. The capital outlay machinery, this is for their vehicles. This is they reduced because some of the purchases we won't be doing this coming year. That included the RMS, I believe that was in this current year. So that was removed here. This is just strictly for the 2 PD vehicles, the body cams and the dash cams for next year. No changes on the remaining. So overall, the public safety, you see a 0.9% increase. The next line item would be the public works. You do see an increase on the trash service. Again, this is just addressing their 4% markup. And we do have a little bit in there for the events for trash service or dumpsters. That is in there as well. Okay, on the maintenance, again, this is coming back to currently, you see that we're at 44,559. As of right now, it's tracking to be under the 111,000, but I'm sure there's projects that I haven't discussed with town manager now that she's back that we'll be addressing, but we felt that we kept it there. Also, the pest control, though it's small, it's something that we're not using as much with the maintenance coordinator being available to address, ongoing issues. The landscaping. So the landscaping we increased, and that's by also removing from the the grounds and maintenance on the Haymarket Park. Though this is just more in preparation that the house will be down, but we still got to address that section. Make sure they maintain it, make sure there's anything that we need up there. So we just bumped that up for our guys to do. The snow removal, again, this is a number we're budgeting. We obviously know that this year we got hit with a really bad storms, but this is just preemptively budgeting another 10,000. Again, if we need to use it, we will. If we don't get a snowstorm, that'll be money that's not used, but we have it budgeted. So overall, public works, that looks to go up by 4.4%. Economic development of the tourism. Again, this is where the TOT comes in play. The 128 is what the 3/7 that go back to the tourism entity, which is in this case the hotel. And then the 2% that goes into the town tourism. This is the funds that we use to help with building tourism and for the town. Advertising fees, 22,000. Again, that's for more of the advertising when it comes to the economic development. Economic development now increases to 29.3% from the past year. Then the Haymarket Park. Here is where we are still wanted to keep 15,000 in there for ground maintenance, just for any issues that may arise. But we are removing the existing project as we feel like it will be completed within this fiscal year. The demo of the house, you'll see later on where we will track on the other budget. The next phase, events. One note here is that on the event section, I did want to use some of the TOT funds, $7,800 to address the actual PD events. This is something that our events coordinator will help manage and with the police department. But we want to make sure that's it's being funded by the TOT funds. I'm trying to see. So overall, the events you see, it's a 0.9% increase. Community development, the engineering. This is so the engineering. I think there's a typo here. I may have to look back on the 5,000. Okay, no. We're reducing this simply because a lot of the other engineering costs are pass-throughs. This is something that we'll talk about during the fee schedule. The architecture review board, nothing changed really. There's still the same amount of monies for the convention education opportunities. Same thing with the BZA. And then going down to our debt obligation. This is to take into account the final bill for our current debt obligation, which will be paid off in August. That'll be one of the first things we pay off. And then that's when the town will have zero debt. Going down to page 7, we are removing the park sidewalk as it will be completed during this fiscal year, so we will no longer have to budget for that. We are also removing the town center plan because we intend to fund that through the ARPA funds, which is going to be tracked by the separate budget. Blight mitigation. This is something the town manager had talked about. We're reducing it just because we've always budgeted 40,000 there, but we have never really fully addressed it just because of personnel time, legal procedures. But that's something we can discuss too. CIP funds. As I spoke earlier in this budget, currently this budget is funding a lot of the CIP projects. Again, these are marrying up with our CIP plan that unfortunately is not, it should have been attached in your agenda, but that's something we can discuss as well. On the separate project, on the separate budget, the other income expenses, here's where we'll start tracking ARPA funds and ARPA expenses. Same thing with the development or proffer funds and proffer expenses. This budget is proposing for 100,000 from ARPA to be used for the website renovation and also as a town center plan, continuation of that project. It also is funding the next phase of the park pavilion and restroom. This will include the engineering and construction of the project. And then we are tracking it, as you can see in this same expenditure line item as well. Overall, the operational budget is now at $3,998,22. The other income budget is at $543,664. The overall budget is now at $4,541,686. Sorry, I was trying to run through that real quick in 15 minutes.
You did that and you finished at exactly 7 o'clock on the nose. In the interest of time to everybody, unless there are any objections, I would suggest that we table any conversation and comments on that, and we pick this up as an agenda item in our regular work meeting. Is any objections to that from any of the on council?
As I may not be here, what I'll do is I'll prepare some questions and comments and submit them.
I'm suggesting we actually make that part of our next meeting coming up at 7
work
o'clock.
session.
Part of our work
Okay.
session.
Okay, very good.
We'll be here longer, but
Okay.
at least we can make some comments. All right, with that then, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
He seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting is adjourned. Yes.